Welcome back to In Case You Missed It, bringing you the biggest stories out of Richmond, Washington, and around the world. My name is Tyler Bagent. Let's get started. Details have continued to emerge this week about the shooting that killed 18 and injured 13 others in Lewiston, Maine on October 25th, which became the 36th mass killing in the United States this year and the deadliest mass shooting in the state's history. The suspect was found dead on Friday in a nearby recycling facility, his former workplace, having died of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. The suspect, 40-year-old U.S. Army reservist Robert Card, opened fire at a local bowling alley around 7 p.m. per the New York Times. Minutes later, shots fired were reported at Chimenji's Bar and Grill. Over the course of the night, images from security camera footage were posted of an armed suspect, followed by photos of his vehicle, and then at 11 p.m. they declared Card as a person of interest who should be considered armed and dangerous. During the course of the night, shelter-in-place orders were put into effect in communities around Lewiston, including Portland, and the United States-Canada border was put on alert. The Lewiston community has come together to mourn those lost and find a way forward after the shooting that took 18 community members. Vigils have been held for those who died, the youngest 14 and the oldest 76. The shooting has renewed conversations about the nation's firearm laws, of which the state of Maine has been criticized for in the past. Maine Governor Janet Mills, a Democrat, called for a serious and robust conversation around gun violence and public safety, though did not endorse any specific policy measure. Maine is currently a permitless carry state, which allows those over 21 to carry a concealed weapon in public without a permit. Maine also has a yellow flag gun law, similar to red flag gun laws, but with more steps and restrictions on the process to take a firearm away from an individual. In most red flag laws, a family member, close friend, or law enforcement official can petition a court to temporarily remove firearms and prohibit the purchase of new ones from individuals who may pose a risk to themselves or others for a variety of reasons. In Maine's yellow flag law, only a law enforcement officer can petition to remove firearms rather than a friend or family member, and also must include an evaluation from a medical professional in the judgment. In this case, the suspect had made threats to carry out a mass shooting in mid-September. Sheriff's reports say that the suspect threatened to, quote, shoot up the drill center at Saco and other places, Saco referring to his Army Reserve unit. Questions have arisen as to why the yellow flag law was not used by law enforcement. Susan Collins, a Republican senator from Maine, said, quote, it certainly seems on the basis of the facts that we have, the yellow flag law should have been triggered at a press conference following the shooting. It remains unclear what, if anything, will be changed regarding firearm laws both in Maine and nationwide. That said, some lawmakers have begun to shift course regarding proposed legislation. Congressman Jared Golden, a centrist Democrat who was born in Lewiston and represents Lewiston in Congress, reversed his longtime opposition to a ban on semi-automatic rifles. In a statement to constituents, he said, quote, I have opposed efforts to ban deadly weapons of war, like the assault rifle used to carry out this crime. The time has now come for me to take responsibility for this failure, which is why I now call on the United States Congress to ban assault rifles like the one used by the sick perpetrator of this mass killing in my hometown of Lewiston, Maine. Governor Mills and Senator Collins have not made similar shifts in policy thus far. In the past week, the race for president in 2024 has seen one major candidate leave the race and one declare his campaign. Former Vice President Mike Pence announced his withdrawal from the race on October 28th at the meeting of the Republican Jewish Coalition in Las Vegas, Nevada, making him the fifth candidate to withdraw his candidacy and the highest polling candidate to do so yet. In a surprise announcement, he said, quote, I came here to say it's become clear to me this was not my time. So after much prayer and deliberation, I have decided to suspend my campaign for president effective today. Pence was wished well by fellow primary opponents, with the notable exception of former President Donald Trump, who said, quote, he should endorse me. You know why? Because I had a great, successful presidency, and he was the vice president. Also this week, Minnesota Congressman Dean Phillips launched a campaign for the presidency, challenging President Joe Biden for the Democratic presidential nomination. Phillips is a more moderate Democrat and one of the richest members of Congress. Phillips is currently 54 years old, a little over 25 years younger than current President Biden. Phillips launched his campaign just before the filing deadline to appear on the ballot for the New Hampshire primary. Phillips' candidacy means there are now two major candidates running against Biden for the nomination. Besides Phillips is Marianne Williamson, a self-help author and former spiritual advisor to Oprah Winfrey, who also ran a long-shot campaign for president in 2020. At this time, candidates beside former President Trump and President Biden have struggled to find headway in their respective primaries. The polling for the race between President Biden and Williamson has been scarce, and Phillips has not been included in any polls to date. The last poll split of this race, out of Harris-X, had Biden leading 70% to 9%. According to the 538 polling average, Trump holds an over 40% lead over the next highest polling candidate, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. DeSantis' support has nearly halved since declaring his campaign in May 2023. This is attributed to a number of reasons, including growing support for Trump in the wake of his criminal indictments and growing disapproval for Ron DeSantis in opinion polls. Governor DeSantis has also lost ground to the other candidates for the Republican nomination, including former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Ambassador Haley, who is also the only woman running, has doubled her support since the first debate in August. All four of these candidates have taken to attacking one another in debates and in the media, leaving former President Trump practically untouched as he cruises to the nomination. The race for the Republican nomination will resume next Wednesday as qualified candidates will debate in Miami, Florida on NBC. 5 candidates, Trump, DeSantis, Haley, Ramaswamy, and Christie, have qualified at the time of recording. Trump has stated he will not participate in any debates, meaning only the last 4 and anyone else who qualifies between now and the deadline will debate. Thank you for tuning in. I've been Tyler Bagent, and this has been In Case You Missed It. Check back next week for more updates around Virginia, the U.S., and the world. See you next week.